Hey everybody, I have missed you a lot, and I am here in Boulder, Colorado, visiting a really good friend of mine and feeling super inspired. So I thought that I would record a video just to talk a little bit about freedom, spark, inspiration, passion, and purpose, and to discuss that all through telling you a little bit about my homeschooling journey, because I was realizing I haven't really told you all that full story yet. So when I first became a parent almost 22 years ago, I always knew I wanted to homeschool. And by the time my son was about to turn 3, I actually opened a Montessori school right in my home where I taught children preschool through first grade. I had 2-year-olds all the way up to 6 and even 7-year-olds. And it was a multi-age classroom, and it was amazing. And we were living and learning together, in the house. And I just thought we would do that forever. And one day, when my son was about 4, we were walking around the block, and he grabbed the chain link fence out in front of the local public school, and he looked in there longingly, and he said, "I want to be in there." And he begged me for the next year to go to school. And even though he turned 5 one day before the cutoff, and a lot of parents were, especially for boys, were holding them back if they were that close to the cutoff date and having them be the oldest in their class, and sending them to kindergarten a year later. But he was so ready. So he was the youngest in his class. He had been super resistant at home, and within the first week of kindergarten, this kid was high-fiving everyone in the schoolyard. Everyone from kindergartners to 6th graders knew his name, and I just knew he was in his zone. Like, he needed that social environment to thrive. And I still had this feeling that his true education was happening at home. And we continued that way for years, just having an environment and a real relationship to education that didn't start and end with the school day, but was just part of the way that we lived our lives. We grew really accustomed to this schedule, and work and life and things happened, and by the time our daughter was born, we were really in that rhythm. And so, of course, I just made the assumption that she would start kindergarten. And kindergarten, first grade, second grade rolled around, and I started to see that incredible spark that existed in her begin to fade. And she was coming home and crying for hours without being consolable. She was saying things like, "I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm bad at math." All these things that I never imagined that my child would say. And so towards the end of second grade, it became really clear that this was not actually the right environment for her. And we discussed it with her. And at the end of second grade, that last day, I said, "You're in 3rd grade now." And that first day of summer vacation, we started homeschooling. And she was in 3rd grade. And, so this is where I want to talk about this spark. And especially for highly sensitive children like my daughter, it can be debilitating to be in an environment where you're not seen as an individual, where your deep feelings and thoughtfulness isn't taken seriously, and where you're not allowed to move at your own pace. But homeschooling can be stressful, and it is sometimes confusing, not really knowing exactly how to do it right. And so I started out and I bought a curriculum that really outlined, week 1, week 2, week 3, different lessons, books to read, etc. And what I found was that in those first few months of following a curriculum, we were butting heads. We were arguing a lot. There was a lot of crying and fighting, and it was stressful. It was just really stressful. And it took a lot of courage for me to let go of that and to really begin to trust her rhythm and allow for the unfolding of learning to happen more naturally, the way that I had always imagined it to happen. Really thinking about that original thought I had where learning is a lifestyle, not a schedule. Learning is lifelong, happens in every moment. And sometimes it doesn't always look like it looks in the curriculum. So, that was hard. That was hard, surrendering to that natural rhythm. At times left me feeling really uncertain and unsure. Sometimes, I judged myself that I wasn't doing enough. Sometimes my kids even said, "You're not pushing me hard enough." But by the end of that first year, and this was homeschooling my daughter in 3rd grade, and then at some point during that year when my son realized we had opportunities to travel, and he came to us and he said, "I just want to be with my family." So we started homeschooling him too, and he was in 10th grade. So we had a 10th grader and a 3rd grader, and we just surrendered to the rhythms of our lives. And sometimes they sat around and watched TV. Sometimes they spent time on YouTube. Sometimes they read books. Sometimes we went surfing in Florida. Sometimes we went on ski trips. Sometimes we, dove into projects that involved building and creating and imagining and developing entrepreneurial opportunities. There's so much to tell there. But this is just the story of how we began. And I want to tell you that by the end of that year, not being sure what we did or what we accomplished, we took the curriculum back out. And my daughter, being a creative soul, a Pisces, I call her a fiery Pisces, she decided to start at the back of the book. So she took out that curriculum and she looked at the very last lesson and she said, "Oh, I know this." And then we flipped through it took us about a day or two, I think 2 days, to go through the whole book, and we flipped through from the back to the beginning. And she realized she learned everything in that book throughout the year and read many of the books that were introduced throughout the curriculum. And we ended that year feeling really confident. So if you're considering homeschooling this coming year and you're feeling a little nervous and unsure, I just want you to surrender, at least have the courage from this conversation to just surrender into your own rhythm and to follow your children and to just have fun. Because that was the key for us, letting go of the stress and the pressures and to really allow ourselves to have fun. So that's where this freedom, passion, and purpose comes in. I don't have a definition for what my kids' purpose is or what they're going to become in their lives now. But I can tell you that spark in my daughter that I saw beginning to dim is bright again. And she is the most confident and incredibly thoughtful person I know. And that just comes through trust and through joy. And if anything, allow yourself to experience those two things in homeschooling. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments under this video. Like and share this with your friends. And I can keep having videos to talk specifically about homeschooling and some of the different projects that we embarked on to see if I can support you in your creative exploration of the education of your kids. So this was fun. Love you tons. Bye.